Okay, in this video we're just going to do a quick walkthrough through the ROI Print Manager user interface. You launch it from the shortcut on the desktop, ROI Print Manager. The first thing you'll notice is once you've launched this is that it's basically web-based. It's a web-based UI. The default username and password to get in is admin and admin, all lowercase. That basically gives you access to everything. This is the UI, and because it's web-based, it's a web browser, basically it's Java, it means you can access it from any desktop as long as you've got the permissions to do so on your network, or even VPN in. So the first thing you'll notice is, again, on the left-hand side are all your features and options. So I'm just going to take you quickly through some of these, some of the most important ones. The setup. Let's click on setup. Setup is where you basically set up all your print devices. So if you want to push out our software, our embedded software to the device itself, this is where you would do it. Now each of these sections are covered in separate videos, all right? So again, you'll have a video on how to set up a printer. You'll have a video on how to set up your reporting. You'll have a video on how to set up your mobile printing and things like that. So we don't need to go over these in great detail, but again, setup is where you set up all your printers and push out the software. Under the managed server, this is an important screen because this is where you would switch on different services. As you can see, there are some services that are already turned on by default because they have to be, but there's others that are not running because, again, you haven't enabled those features or functions. So for instance, let's just say you want to do LDAP integration and you want to make sure that your LDAP is synced. All you would do is come in here under LDAP update service and make sure, after you've configured it, make sure you've actually enabled it, and you just enable it by clicking here, and it will come back here to say that the service has started. So again, all of these services, very important screen here. You can see just come up, service started. Very important screen is where all your services for your different functions and features of the ROI Print Manager software need to be started up. Very common mistake is you configure everything and then you forget to turn on your service. Most of the features will actually tell you, hey, you haven't switched on the service, so you need to go back into the managed service screen and switch it back on. So you do get alerts. We got a logs section here. This is very good for us for troubleshooting and maybe your technical department as well. We have the service log, so every service that's switched on will have its own individual log, and you can just select whichever service you want to look for. Very useful for troubleshooting. And then you got individual printer logs, mailbox logs, agent logs, and separate synchronization log. Reporting, this is where you would generate all your reports. Again, they're covered in a separate section. Local agent, again, covered in a separate section, but you can see, you know, every time you hit an arrow, there's more and more sub-menus or sub-features become available to you. The UI itself, it can be locked down. So like I said, I'm logged in as administrator, so I've got access to everything. We can lock it down so you can create your own users and you can create your own permissions and roles for those users. So, you know, for instance, a standard user wouldn't see everything here. You can even actually modify the UI on the fly and customize it to fit your own infrastructure, your own network. So for instance, if you've got users where you only want to give those users or a certain section of users the ability to run reports, well, we can basically grey out everything else or hide everything else, and that user, when they log in, will only have reporting. If you've got users where all their job is to create cost accounts and apply those pricing models and cost accounts to certain groups of users, again, we could go into accounting and we can actually do this on the fly, where you can actually just remove everything else. So when those groups of users log in, all they see is the cost accounts and pricing models. So it is very flexible. It is very customizable, the UI. to fit your requirements and your needs. So like I said, I'm not going to go through everything. You have an about page here that basically tells you what your license is, what your current license is, when it expires. Here it is here. It's like who it's licensed to, when it expires, what it's licensed for as well. You have your free job sections or your job features, which is your pending, your completed, and your held jobs. Again, these are something that we will go through later stage. And again, then you've got users and security. So this will include all your users, your different roles. When you want to do your LDAP integration, in other words, your LDAP import to import your Active Directory users, this is where you would go. And then if you want to set up groups for either reporting or distribution or even delegation groups, again, so that you can see it's all split out quite logically. It's fairly user-friendly as well. And you know, each section is split out under each for each feature that we offer. The other thing you want to probably have a look at is under settings. Settings is basically a global or universal setting. So anything in here is a universal setting. So here you can see we've got a quota mode. Right now it's disabled. We can then enable it, and we can say, well, what do you want your quotas for instance? Do you want it a cost to click or a page? If you put in an account search and client matter accounting, that automatically turns on the pop-ups if there's agents installed for the desktop. So every time a user clicks on print, they will get a client matter search page where they can search their client matter and then hit print, and that job is automatically associated with that client matter. MFPs, again, unauthorized direct printing. So if you want to allow unauthorized, so they don't have to be authorized, so the users don't have to be authorized within our database. Or if you want to default all your printers to duplex, again, like I said, universal settings. Housekeeping, so you can select when to run the housekeeping service, and also the frequency, and then you can select how many days, these are all days, on when to purge certain items. So purge, for instance, completed days, completed after 1 day. So can purge unreleased jobs every 3 days. The reason why we do it every 3 days is someone might send a job to the server on a Friday, but they might not print it out until the Monday, and you just want to make sure that the weekend is taken into account as well, that the job's still sitting there and they haven't got to resend it. But again, these are all settings, like I said, universal settings that you can set, and you can have as many days as you want. Email alerts, see we've got the ability here to set up this server to act as like a SMTP server, so you can receive email alerts. Also very handy for mobile print, where you can set this server up if you get a job, for instance, with an attachment on your phone, you can forward it onto to an email address set up on the server. Local agents, again, global settings for local agents, so whatever you change here affects all agents. So yeah, that's a fairly important page as well, or screen. And then you have your services here, and it will actually tell you what services are available and what services are hidden. You could, if you wanted to, change all sorts of things. So for instance here, if you wanted to use a different port for the FM audit service, we just go in here and you would just literally change the port number. So for instance 8080, click on save, and that's it. The agent, or sorry, the FM audit service will use port 8080 from now on. So yeah, you can change ports. So if there are particular ports that the customer IT wants to use, you know, instead of these, you can just change them here on the fly. That's it really. As you can see, it's a fairly clean UI. It's fairly intuitive. It's user friendly, and it has been split out into fairly relevant sections as well. And again, we will cover most of these features and functions in more detail in separate videos. That's it. That's all I've got for you. Thank you. Thanks for watching.